So hi, Hendrika, and thank you for letting us record the rest of our conversation. I think we were having a really good laugh and thought this would be great to share on our Facebook Live. So we were talking about slang, language, etiquette, and I wanted to just go back to the slang to start off with. There was for new arrivals who not only might not even speak English, but even if you do speak English and come across an Aussie and ask for directions for something, it can be quite a humbling experience, let's say.
It's all jaw-dropping, like, what did this guy just say to
me? I know there was a story we were saying the other day with somebody who they had a hired car, they'd been house hunting all day, needed to put petrol in the car and stopped and asked for directions. And you tell the rest of the story. I've forgotten.
No. So this Aussie guy was just going on about the arvo, or the servo, and the guys couldn't figure out what he was saying, but he was actually saying to them the service station. For some of us, we call it a petrol station, or maybe if you're from America, it would be a gas station. Or so they were completely confused with what this guy was trying to tell them. I can just imagine how all over the place their minds were going, like, what was this guy trying to tell us?
And I can imagine if they sort of said to the person, go up there and pull a UE and the servo's on the left, it would just sound, what are you talking about? But basically what that means is go up there, do a U-turn, and the service station will be on your left-hand side. But no, pull a UE and the servo's on your left. And
people shouldn't think that it's only in normal day-to-day communication. It's also, for example, in the letter that you get from the school. Like when we arrived, my daughter had to go on a school trip, and we got a list of everything that she needed to pack. And I had no idea what a brolly was or an esky.
Yes, of course, because if you have a barbecue and they say bring an esky, to you and I, what do you mean? Is that a plate of food? Is that a certain dish? But no, to bring an esky means bring your own drinks with you in an icebox.
Yes. So and the brolly, just so that it's an umbrella. It's so they have all these little quirky names, and they tend to just shorten everything and put an O at the end.
And I'm sure there was probably, they can bring bickies if they want.
Oh yes, and the bicky, yes. Yes, that was under the snacks, most definitely, the bickies. Yes.
Funny, so funny. And I think, that another thing that really shocks people and shocked me, and I'm sure it did for you as well, is swearing. The amount of Aussies that swear, especially the males. There's no regard for anybody. You could be sitting in a coffee shop and they're sitting next to you and they're swearing all the time. There's no regard for anything. It's just runs off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, and don't even try to roll your eyes or look at them in disgust, because it will just roll off their back.
They won't even notice. That's right.
No, they wouldn't even notice. They will just think you have some weird, facial expressions or something.
Yeah.
No, it's like this whole thing with COVID. All over the world we see the COVID pandemic. Here in Australia, we just say when all of this shit happened, So
we know what we mean,
and everybody used it. Everybody talked like that. So
yes. Yeah, but even the Fbomb, like you can just be down the street, you walking on the high street, you will hear the Fbomb. There's just no doubt about it. Yeah. You don't even have to walk past a construction site or something, you'll hear it. Yeah.
Just standing at the traffic light, you will hear it behind you.
Yeah, exactly. Something else we were talking about was etiquette and public transport. And I was telling you a story about my daughter being on the train the other day, and somebody pulled out their nail clippers and was clipping their toenails on the train. And
Oh my goodness. No.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No. I think it's okay if if you still put a little bit of makeup on your face, like you smack on a bit of lippy for lipstick.
Yes.
But filing your nails and even your feet and clipping your toenails, that is such a big no-no.
No.
And the other thing that always irritates me, and I know it irritates everybody else, is always people having telephone conversations as loud as possible, because they think, because they speak in a different language, that nobody can understand them, first of all.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's like they're oblivious that it's just going throughout the train, this conversation,
Yes. There's definitely a respect. There's definitely a respect here of personal space, and that comes into personal space. Even if you're sitting on the train, it's not expected that you must go and sit right next to the seat of somebody else. You would always, and it could be anywhere in a hall or somewhere else where they're seating. You always leave some space between you and the next person, unless somebody, you need to fill the gap, then you move up again. But there is definitely that personal space, and that comes through even on the telephone. You invading somebody's personal space by talking loud on the phone. There's definitely a respect for that, and that brings us on to the other, which is keep to the left.
Yes, keep to the left, just like the road. Stay on the left when you are in a queue, when you are going up the stairs, when you are going up the elevators. Just stay
even
to
the escalator.
Left.
Yeah, the escalator. You've got to keep to the left so people can pass on the right who want to walk quicker.
Yes.
Always. Yeah.
So, but then there is a little bit of a difference when you get into a taxi in Australia.
Yes, so true.
So in all the movies, and especially in Britain, you sit at the back of the taxi. But here in Australia, because everybody is on the same level, we are a classless society.
Yeah.
It is not uncommon to climb in and sit next to the taxi driver in the front of the taxi.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to look strange at you. In fact, they say that is how they know if you are an Australian when you travel overseas, is when you sit at the front next to the taxi driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think something else that people don't realize is it's very normal here. If you walk through the door and there's somebody just 3 steps behind you, that you'll hold the door for them, regardless of age, gender, or anything else. The Aussies definitely will hold the door for the person behind them as well.
Yes, and then the nice thing that you can do is just to say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's probably the most important things that you need to remember about etiquette.
Yes, and there's a certain etiquette even in the workplace, and I think if you don't know the local rules and act like a local, you could potentially rub people up the wrong way very quickly.
Oh, definitely, yes. Now, Australians like team players. They don't like people that have big egos, walking into the office and saying, here I am, I know best, you don't know anything. That is the quickest way to make enemies and to feel like they don't trust you, they don't want you there. And then you're going to start looking for other jobs, which is going to cause a job hopping sequence on your resume. And that's not something that you want to do.
Yeah, I think definitely when you come into a job, you need to just, as my mother would say, mind your P's and Q's when you first arrive. Just sit back, watch the hierarchy, see who the team players are, see who isn't, and don't walk in with a big ego. Leave your ego behind. learn the ropes first, because if you start with a big ego and start trying to change the world in one day, they're going to cut you down very quickly and they're not going to respect you.
Yeah, so that very common tall poppy syndrome thing will kick in and they will cut you down at the knees.
And I think it also comes back to what you were saying just now about it being a classless society. You know, there's respect up and down, whether it's the cleaner or the CEO. You speak to them the same way. You don't speak to them any differently just because of who they are or what their job might be.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing that we like about Australia. Australia will give anybody a fair go as long as you do your bit. You know, there's so many opportunities. You can make or break it yourself. And, you know, speaking of, you know, not looking down at other people, you know, just, you know, after the meeting, help them to clean up.
Yep.
You know, take your mug, take it to your desk or wash it or whatever, but don't ever have this aura or energy about you that you are above them, because they will pick it up so quickly.
No self-importance. You know, you don't want to be full of self-importance. And as you say, they'll give you a fair go. It's a case of, you know, and I think you need to socialize with them, because they'll do business with people they like. So get to like people, but make friends before you make enemies, and, you know, do the Friday drinks.
Yeah. And you know, like I always say to my clients, you know, be a little bit like our undercover spy in the beginning, especially during that time when you're still on your probationary period. You know, make notes, getting to know people, you know, figure out what they like, what their hobbies are, you know, so that you have stuff to talk to them about. And also, very importantly, well, before we forget about this, Robyn, if you work in Melbourne, definitely in Melbourne, you need to know the footy teams, and you need to pick a team. Because footy tipping is a thing in the Australian workplace.
Yes, if you were never into gambling before, gambling is one of the earliest sports, along with horse racing. So you will gamble, you will tip, as much as it might be against. It's just you just have to do it.
Yeah. It's otherwise you're going to be the odd one out, and you're not going to be very uncomfortable at work.
Yeah, and you can choose a footy team very easily. You can, you know, look at the teams. I think there's 19 teams. Just choose it on color, but have a team, because when you arrive in the office and they say, who do you barrack for? Well, they're not talking about soccer or hockey or anything. They don't need to.
Or the army barracks.
Yeah, exactly. When they say, what are you barracking for? They're talking about footy. It needs no explanation. So you need to have a team. And even for children in the playground, you know, if they haven't got a team, because the other boys will say, you know, who do you barrack for? And they'll say, oh, Collingwood. Oh, okay, well, that boy there, that group there, the Collingwood group, go and be friends with them. And there you are, you've got your identity. It's that simple.
And look, it's so easy. I choose, you know, the Geelong Cats because I like cats. I have no cultural affinity or any, you know, thing that linked me to the Geelong Cats, but I'm a Geelong Cat supporter. So.
I love it. I love it. And I think that's also important, what you were saying just now, or what we were both saying about making Aussies will help you out, and they'll be anything you want to be if you do your bit, and they're friends with you. They get to know you before they'll do business with you. And I think that comes outside the workplace as well. And just remembering that you are coming into a country where there's already friendship circles. And sometimes they just won't think about inviting you, but you have to be first. You have to say, oh, can I come along? They're not going to be offended by that.
Definitely. And the other thing that I found also, Robyn, is that if you want to meet your neighbours, you just take 6 beers or so over, knock on the door, and introduce yourself, and you will have a friend forever.
Yes.
It's also a very good way to manage conflict with your neighbours, if you have any conflict with your neighbours.
Yes. Oh, a bottle of wine or a 6-pack goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do anything with that.
Absolutely.
It's like magic. Yeah.
Not a bicky.
No, definitely beer or wine. Yeah.
I think making friends is one of those things that people find hard. And even if they're English and coming to this country, like when we were in France, the same as you, it was fairly easy in some instances to make friends because you just gravitated towards other English speakers. And then coming to Australia, which is an English speaking country, you expect to make friends quite easily. But I think you really have to go out and you don't have to work hard at making friends, but I think you have to make friends or put yourself in situations where you are likely to find somebody who is similar to you, has similar interests. So whether that's a hobby that you have, if you enjoy painting or doing mosaics, join those groups and find friends that way, because that's already an icebreaker.
Oh yes, and that's the other nice thing about Australia. There are so many things that you can do. You can volunteer. I have a friend that's an amateur actor,
Wow.
and they put up all these plays, and the great people that he got to know from that group or community group. It's incredible. It's lifelong friends.
Absolutely.
And the whole Aussie mate thing as well, because Aussies know that most Aussies that came to Australia had family very far away. So that Aussie mate thing is a very important part of the culture.
Yes.
I would also say that you will sometimes find that people that are here longer are already settled and have their own little groups of friends.
Yeah.
And you will, as a newly arrived migrant, you will probably find that it's easier to make friends with people who are more or less in the same phase of culture shock and integration than you are.
Yep. Because those that have been here for a while, they kind of, they've been through it, the trauma of it, and they kind of like, I'm over that now. I'm I don't need to deal with it anymore.
And I found that there's not a lot of people that want to relive that over and over again with newcomers.
Yes.
So they will distance themselves a little bit from you. Because I think most Aussies knows how hard it is to immigrate and how hard it is to be far away from family. So and I also think there's a lot of people that don't really want to talk about it. Really, they tend to just put it in the back of their mind and and just keep it there. So,
exactly. Yeah. No, that was great. Thank you so much. And
we can talk so much about this. We can have another 2 hours.
I know we could. I'm glad to see you've got a picture of the book behind you, the first edition.
Yes.
The first edition.
First edition. So yes, that's another little story.
Yes.
The first edition, because you and I are so into the Australian life now that we use the word shit also a lot. Or many times. so we named our book Moving Your Shit to Australia. And for Australians, it is delightful. They love it. But for people in other countries, like in South Africa, where it was the target market was, it wasn't. It's a little bit of a big no still.
Yes.
So that just shows you how quickly you can integrate to the point that you forget.
You feel comfortable to market a book with that name. And also to put that into context, we were trying to explain to people that they bring too much shit with them. In Australia, especially from America or South Africa in that instance, where they've got big homes and a lot of furniture and a lot of big furniture. But it's not just those physical things, it's the emotional things as well. They bring a lot of emotional baggage with them. And you know, I know, Hendrika, you and I could sit and talk for a whole nother hour on bringing that emotional baggage and dealing with that emotional baggage, and not trying to live your old life in a new country. You've got to find the balance between the two. I know we could talk forever about that as well, so we'll have to do that as a topic on another day.
Yes, definitely.
Lovely.
But yes, yeah, it's if you can manage the initial shock, and just be a little bit more prepared than most migrants.
Yes.
The first few weeks will not be so bad.
Yes, exactly.
It can be fun and joy, you know, full of joy. You know, you don't have to cry your eyes out every night.
No, if you know what to expect, it makes it a little bit easier, because then when you get to that point, and I've had it, you know, I've had people contact me and say, this mom's doing it really tough, can you go and have a coffee with her? And I go and sit down in a cafe and she bursts into tears and she's like, everybody's gone, I've got all these boxes, everybody's at work and at school, and you know, that's normal, you know, and just sort of saying to them, this could happen to you, and be ready for it. You know, you warn people about it, then they're like, oh yes, I've heard about this. So and before we finish off the video, just tell everybody what it is that you do.
Oh, okay. So I'm a master certified life coach, and I mainly deal with migrant issues. So whether you are an expat or an immigrant or an international student, any issues that you have, struggling with culture shock, missing the folks back home, I'm here and I can guide you through everything. So, yes,
and your website?
The website is pillarsofpower.com.au, and on the first page is a little button where you can click and make an appointment for a 30-minute no fee discussion. So just so that you know, we can see if we can help each other. You know, not every life coach is everybody's cup of tea.
But I think that's great. So if somebody is struggling, they can at least pick up the, you know, click with you, and just, even if it's just half an hour, to say, this is what I'm feeling, is this normal? I think it's a great option for people.
And then you know, from there on, you know, if you want me to help you through the journey, I have different options that I can provide. But yes, it's sometimes it's just having a little chat with somebody that's been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yeah, and who can relate, and who, like you said, there's only a few people in the world that are willing to hang around and still speak to new migrants. So it's you've got a heart of gold to do that. Thank you.
No.
I know you love it anyway.
That's why we're here.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Hendrika. I will speak to you again soon. And yeah, we'll send this out on the Facebook airwaves.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.